Okay, episode 3. Welcome back to another episode of the Retrospect podcast. This is basically a retro gaming podcast that we do every week, and we discuss anything retro gaming related. Quite simply, and we're the third week in, and the numbers have been great, the engagements have been great, so I can only thank you all for getting involved, adding your comments, and sharing it with your friends, because in all honesty, I want this to be for you guys. I know this is a rough time. We're all pretty bored, stuck inside. So getting this content out to you every week is my top priority. And I appreciate that you guys are enjoying it. If we do get to like episode 10, I think I'm going to do like a little giveaway. And I'll seriously look at making it available on Spotify as well. So that ain't far away at all. So let's dive right into what I want to talk about. And if you're new to the Retrospect podcast, basically half of the podcast, I talk about a subject, and in the other half, I go through all of your comments that you left in the previous episode. So if you have any comments now or questions that you want answered in the next episode, get them in the comment section below now, and I shall use them in the next episode. And you could get featured, you could see your name pop up, and I just love the engagement that you guys are giving these episodes right now. I'm actually quite impressed. I didn't think they'd be popping as much as they are, because it's just me, this British Somerset folk, talking rubbish about retro games. Who knew you could love it? So in this episode, as you can tell by the title, I want to talk about two things, or one thing basically, and that is console remakes. Old retro consoles coming back in miniature form. Now, They did it with the SNES, they did it with the NES, they did it with the Sega Mega Mini Drive, and they were a huge success, and they sold like lightning, and they're still quite valuable to this day. Like, people are flipping them online. So, they are a wanted product, and they are wanted by collectors as well. So hopefully they will come out, and they definitely will, the N64 Mini and the GameCube Mini. So let's start off with the N64. We're going to talk about what games it's going to come with, what features, how much it's going to be, when they're going to release it, and we'll do the same with the GameCube Mini. So the N64 Mini, in my personal opinion, will happen. I don't know when. I'd like it to happen in the next 2 years, because the N64 like genuine ROM files are quite small. And when you go to larger consoles like the GameCube and the Xbox, the files are so big and so large that you generally need to invest in the actual processor and the internals within the console. So them doing that now just won't be profitable. But where the N64 flourishes is that it doesn't really need that much power, and it doesn't really need that much memory. So you can get away with making a mini console for an affordable price. That's why I think it's going to happen over the next 2 years. People are asking, will it play cartridges? No, absolutely bloody not. The cartridges, basically, Nintendo doesn't make any money on them at all, so they're not going to get you to buy cartridges where they get zero profit from. They're going to do the classic like they had, come with preloaded games. You're probably going to get up to 20 preloaded games with the N64 Mini. And what games is going to determine how well it sells? Like, without a doubt, the N64 Mini has to come with Mario Kart 64. If it comes with Mario Kart 64, this thing will sell like hotcakes. Imagine you taking this little console around to your friends, it's got Mario 64 on. And because why I think they'll do that is that you're going to need to buy 2 extra controllers to be able to play 4 players. So not only are they going to sell loads of consoles, they're going to sell a ton of controllers just because of Mario Kart 64. And in all honesty, if they come out with that, I'm buying it. And I'm probably going to buy controllers as well, hands down. So they're going to have to come out of Mario Kart 64. I'd also like to see Super Mario 64, Donkey Kong, Zelda. Obviously, if they put Zelda in there, brilliant. Kirby would be good on there, and one personally for me would be Pokemon Stadium. If they just had those games on it, I'd buy it. But obviously, because they want to pump up the numbers, they're probably going to need to go to like 15 to 20 games built in. So I think if they do come out of it, it's gonna do really, really well. And if it comes out with just those games, the sales are going to skyrocket. I wouldn't even be surprised if Nintendo has a concept, or like a, what they call it, a prototype of it already. It's just it definitely won't be able to play cartridges. But on that subject, cartridges, I've actually been in touch with a Chinese company who are going to send me a fake Nintendo 64 that can play cartridges. So if you want to see that, subscribe. That should be coming up in the next couple of months. But I do get those emails a lot where they're like, hey, we've got this, do you want it? And it just never comes. And in this pandemic, it might take a while. It will do the classic HDMI output. You'll have your save and load states, which means you'll be able to save from a direct frame. So wherever you are in game, you won't need to hit a checkpoint. The N64 will let you save an exact frame and load that whenever you need to. And the UI should be quite easy to get around too. Like I said, the file sizes on these things are going to be incredibly small, allowing Nintendo to pump out the games on the internals for very, very cheap. And what I'd really like to see as well is limited edition variants. So like in the old days, they had those transparent N64s. I would love them to come out with a couple, like a translucent orange or a transparent orange edition of this mini console that, yes, they'll probably charge $20 extra for, but I can guarantee you people will pick it up, and they'll probably pick up the original and the special edition just because. And not only will that keep collectors happy, it will just keep everyone happy. I think that will be what helps them with sales as well. Coming out with a limited edition variant with limited prints. I don't know, prints, or it's not a print, you don't print an N64, but limited editions. I don't know if they want to do 10,000 of one color, 10,000 of the next, and then that's it. And pump up the price by $20, bang. People will sap that up. When will it come out and what price it will be? I think it will come out in the next 2 years. They'll do it towards a Christmas. I can't imagine they'll do it this year because of just, everything hitting the fan at the moment. But I reckon towards the end of 2021, we could be seeing a Nintendo 64 mini console, and that would sell so well. And what price? Like the $70 to $100 range, I think would be smart. I think they could even get away with making it $99, because of Mario Kart and because of the transparent limited edition variants. Like, this is going to get some serious hype. So I'm hoping they come out with a console at the end of 2021 for under $100, and it will sell really, really well. They won't need to add any new technology to it. I just really, really want to see them go to wireless controllers. Like the Sega Mega Drive Mini was great. I absolutely loved it, but the cable on it was like a meter, and I had to be like right next to my 50-inch TV, and I was almost going blind, So having a wireless controller would be good. Like, I don't know if they just do wireless controllers in the limited edition variant. Add an extra $20-$30 on it, give you a wireless controller, boom, you're happy to go. Or even add in Bluetooth connectivity so you can use your 8-bit Do or your other Hyperkin wireless controllers with it. That's what I want to see. And if they do release it at the end of 2021, this could be a possibility. But they haven't done it in their previous remakes. Sega hasn't done it, so I can't really see this happening, unfortunately. But that would be cool if they did have wireless controllers. Now, coming up in the next 5 years, what about the GameCube Mini? A lot of you have been asking that. We've done a couple articles on it. It's all mystery. It's all concept. Like, it will happen. We just don't know when. The only problem with it happening in the next 5 years is that GameCube games generally need a strong processor and they take up a lot of memory. So getting these internals in the memory within a unit that costs under $100 won't be very profitable for Nintendo at all. So they might have to wait 5 years to get their profit margins up, be able to afford to buy these cheap internals that they can flog for $99 and then make a profit on it. So that's the only thing that's stopping Nintendo doing that anytime soon, in my personal opinion. It just needs a lot of power and, a lot of memory. Could you see online capabilities? I don't know. I can't see them doing that because they'd have to pay for servers. They'd have to do all that nonsense. They'd have to probably have an online marketplace. They won't do that. And I spoke about that in the previous episode of Retrospect about the Game Boy marketplace. I'd love to see that, but it probably won't happen because, it just takes a lot of work and a lot of money on Nintendo's aim. Price range, release date, I'll say it now. It's going to be, this is my bet, $99, 2023. That's my bet. If you have any different opinions, drop them below. Price and year. 2023, $99. That's my bet. They won't come out with variant editions, I can't imagine. I'd love to see accessories as well. If you haven't watched it, we pimped the GameCube about a month ago where we bought a load of crazy accessories, and one of the accessories was a flip-up screen, which basically made the console near portable, which is really cool. I'd love to see that, but you know, sales-wise, no other third party is going to make that little screen for it. You might get modders who do that to make them into really cool things and possibly even hack them, but I can't see them making accessories for it, even though I would really, really like to see that. So like I said, I want to keep this podcast short and sweet and go for a few comments. So that's my thoughts on the Nintendo 64 Mini and the GameCube Mini. I have no proof. Like, there's literally no proof out there that Nintendo are making these consoles as of yet. It's all speculation. But they will make them because they're going to make them a lot of money. It's just how quickly, what price, and what it's going to do. It's probably going to come preloaded with 20 games. That's all we're going to get. It's going to be wired controllers, and that's it. No online capabilities, unfortunately. But I think the N64 could be one of their best-selling, mini consoles ever. Like, the N64 will beat the GameCube, without a doubt. Mario Kart 64 on that, Nintendo would be like that. I'll just be cashing in big time. Okay, let's get on to the comments section of the podcast. I wanted to keep that short and sweet because last time I rambled on and on about the Game Boy. So let's go through a few comments that I'm just going to scan through. So I'm going through the comments section now. Switch Strike says, out of all consoles, which one would you like to have a remake of the most? Fitting question for this episode. Now, obviously, I am totally in love with the Game Boy, but I can't see them remaking that anytime soon, or even, like, they will. It's just, it's going to be a classic preloaded. But I want to see the N64 Mini. I really do think that could be a console that brings back a ton of old retro gamers and also releases a new console to the affordable mainstream modern gamers. Like the kids that are into Mario, they can now reunite with the old classic games through a $70 or $99 console. So I really do want to bring them out because I think it would be good for this Nintendo as a franchise, and even Pokemon, like getting Pokemon Stadium on there would be cool for the Pokemon fans out there. So thank you very much for your questions, Switch Strike. A really good fitting question for this episode. What other questions have we got here? Adrian Ostrowski says, what is the best handheld with the best performance? Now, there's a tricky question. That's two questions in one. Which is the best handheld and which has the best performance? Now, the best handheld, in my opinion, is the RG350M, the brand new retro handheld that came out about 2 weeks ago. It's a metal handheld that can play up to PlayStation 1 games. That one is by far the best handheld because it feels, looks, and plays great. Like, everything about it. There's not one thing on there that makes me think this came out of China. Like, this thing is perfectly made, and I'm always talking highly of it. The best performance, I've got my hands on the Moki i7S. That's an Android gaming phone. That can play emulators near perfect, all the way up to, you can play DS and Wii on that thing. But it's $300. So best performance for price range for me would have to be the Odroid Go Advance. It's a $60 handheld by a company called Hard Kernel that can play N64 games quite well, and people are trying to hack the software to be able to play PSP. So look at that one if you want. The only problem with that is that it's a cheap quality product and it doesn't have enough buttons. So playing N64 is a little tricky. So best handheld, RG350M. Best performance for your price, Odroid Go Advance. So check out that, and thank you again, Adrian, for your question. Steve Nutting says, can you see the industry going to any kind of casting of the screen or streaming while playing on the retro consoles? The retro consoles, I'm guessing you mean the remakes. I might be wrong. Like if you can already stream from an N64, you just need a load of adapters. But from the remakes, no, because you need internet connection, which is a little bit, of a problem. Maybe possibly in handhelds coming up if they've got pre-built Wi-Fi capabilities. But then again, streaming through a handheld like that, it will need a lot of power. So I don't think it will be coming anytime soon. But great question, Stephen. Thank you for that, mate. I appreciate it. I always see you about the comments as well, so keep it up. Jonathan Earl says, will you be purchasing Hyperkin's Retron Junior? And for those of you that don't know what the Retron Junior is, it's basically a dock for your Game Boy games. So it's basically a console that you connect to HDMI and you just slot in your Game Boy cartridges. An absolutely great product, and I didn't even know I needed it until I saw it. But the problem is, I know this may sound a little bit derogative, but I'm not a fan of Hyperkin's product. They're quite cheaply made and they're overpriced. All they need to do is start knocking like 25% off their price, and then they could, like in my opinion, be a respectable company that's selling respectable high-end products for a good price. But they're just overpriced and stuff at the moment. And the Retron Junior, they haven't announced the price, but I can imagine that's going to be like upwards, like near $75 to $100. Which is expensive for just a console that plays Game Boy cartridges. But I will be buying it because I'm an idiot. So yes, I will be buying it. It will be fun. The only problem is I don't know too much about it as of yet, but it will need Bluetooth connectivity. I want to play and hook up my Bluetooth controllers to this so I can play on my couch with no problem. I don't want it to be wired at all, and it needs to play Game Boy Advance games as well. So yes, I will be picking it up. Great question. So Jason Park says, oh, I saw my comment but didn't get answered. Don't worry, buddy. Answering it now. Jason Park says, what makes a console retro? Right now, it seems to be the 64-bit era as a general rule, but I see the GameCube added in sometimes. What are your thoughts? Jason, great question. I get asked this all the time. Like, what is retro? Retro to some people is not retro to me, and retro to me is not retro to a 15-year-old, So I agree with you, the 64 era is probably what I class as retro, but I think this year, for me, retro is up to the PlayStation 2. I know that's a long shot, but for me, PlayStation 2, I'm just thinking like, damn, that was so far back in technology advancement that is retro now, for me. Like, and it wasn't even that long ago that it came out in reality, but for me, it's the PlayStation 2. You mentioned the GameCube. Yes, it's definitely between the GameCube and the PS2, in my personal opinion. That's also a great question for you guys. What do you class as retro? For me, it's PlayStation 2. Let me know what you think. So that's an awesome question, Jason. And thank you for commenting. And apologies for not reading out the previous one. Would you buy the PAL Kitty X18 or the GPD XD? Now, I have them both. So actually, no, I don't. No, I don't. So I've had the GPD. I haven't had the X18 yet. So I can't really confirm. The GPD for me, I wasn't a fan of it. I know it's so highly recommended in the retro gaming niche, but I went through 3 of them. 2 of them broke within 3 months of each other, and then I had to buy a third, and the third one, it's just somewhere now. Like, for me to go through that many products and recommend it, I just can't. Admittedly, those 2 could have been like a 1% flaw, but I had to buy it 3 times. And for me to recommend a product that's broke twice, I just can't. I can't recommend the GPD XD. But I can see them coming out with a new one in the next 12 months. So hopefully, I'll get hold of that, and that will be something I can recommend. And it probably will be. Like, that thing looks great, feels great, plays great, but it just kept breaking. So I just couldn't recommend it. Duarte says, what do you think about handhelds like the RG Boy? Is that a good concept? The RG Boy, is that little one that I had, like the really, really thin one? Yeah, it is. I had the RG Boy. and I was really excited to get it. The RG Boy is basically a really, really thin Game Boy looking console that's based on the Arduino platform. So you can make your own games, and there's a whole community of game makers out there that make games for it. A really, really cool idea, but it was just so expensive, man. Like, it was like £50 for this really thin Game Boy thing. The games were okay, but they just wasn't worth like £50 of my money. I have to work a long time for that. That is a lot of money, but it was cute. The build quality of it, the total like idea behind it was great. I just think the £50 price tag was a bit too hefty. If it was £30, I'd be like, hell yeah, pick that up and create your own games. I'm hoping the Arduino community come out with something cool. You know, I had the Maker Buino, which was like a handheld that I built myself, again on the Arduino platform. That was cool. It just needs something like Game Boy colory, you know, something a bit bigger and less portable, in my personal opinion. But great question, mate. I think we'll leave it at that. There's just a lot of you commenting. Someone said, Anton said, who's that Pokemon? It's sexy Jonah Hill. Thanks, man. I'll take that. Jonah Hill is looking damn fresh lately as well. Okay, so there you have it. Episode 3 of the Retrospect podcast, talking about the N64 Mini, the GameCube Mini, and going through a few of your comments. There wasn't many questions today, so if you guys can get more questions in, even if you have a few, get them in below, get involved, and we'll go over them in the next episode. I'm actually moving flat as this video goes up. I'm moving into a new flat, so the next episode might look a little different because this setup is all going to change. So it will look different, and so will all future videos as well. So it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time. I get a new studio space. It's a bit smaller, but it's all going to be a bit more, you know, modern. I'm looking into streaming as well, like see how that goes. Like the setup is going to be a nice little content space. So subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.